Hello everyone and welcome to this adventure walkthrough. My name is Professor Grimm and I want to showcase you some tips and tricks to get through the Tomb of the Moon Knight. This is an adventure for first to second level characters for the game Shadowdark, but it can easily be adapted to D&D 5th edition, Old School Essentials or other D20 based systems. It's about delving into a dungeon, the Tomb of the Moon Knight, which was created a couple of hundred years ago by local townsfolk who wanted to honor this knight who took from the rich and gave it to the poor. Its silvery treasure is still hidden inside, and after it has been uncovered recently, there have been some attempts to get this treasure out of there. There are sky pirates heading towards the tomb, are most likely even inside of the tomb right now, and your characters have to get there to either steal the treasure before the sky pirates get to it, to get rid of the sky pirates who have been terrorizing the local townsfolk, or maybe even some alternative reasons given inside the adventure itself, like some fire moths who have been settling down in the tomb and have been terrorizing the local farmhands by setting their fields ablaze. So there are really multiple reasons of why the characters might want to go there. I have now pulled up this map in order to showcase you guys where the characters will head into the tomb. As you guys have probably guessed, this map is only meant to be seen by the game master, since there are a bunch of reference numbers on the map. They are even hyperlinked, so you can click on them and they will take you to the appropriate room description. So it is a very handy tool for game masters, but for players there is an additional virtual tabletop ready map attached to the adventure that you can reveal bit by bit as the players are uncovering the secrets of the tomb. As the players are heading towards the dungeon, there are two possible entryways that are immediately obvious to them. The first one, Area 1, is a mostly empty plateau with very harsh winds. There are some piles of bones that are hinting towards an upcoming encounter, and they are next to an entryway that leads to Area 2. The second obvious entry into the dungeon is Area 5, an open cave where there's flickering torchlight and shadows being cast outside of that cave. This is the encampment of the Sky Pirates, and therefore it is a more dangerous area to use as an entryway. But there's a trade-off. Since the Sky Pirates have already plundered parts of the dungeon, there are some crates with treasure inside of them. The players have to be quick though. There is a chance that an airship of the Sky Pirates will drop by and load on these crates in a couple of rounds, so the players might need to be fast if they want to get their hands on that treasure. Connecting these two areas is a mountain path. This mountain path is really narrow, and in the middle of the mountain path there's a waterfall blocking the way. This waterfall has very cold, rushing water, so it's a very nice natural obstacle for the players to overcome. Particularly smart players might be able to infer that the waterfall must come from somewhere, and indeed it comes from an underwater river that is heading right into the middle of the dungeon. So a very cool secret entryway for players to circumvent some of the first encounters. Most players are going to use Area 1 since it is the most safe looking area, but they are going to immediately get punished going into Area 2 because this is probably one of the more dangerous areas of the dungeon since there is a cave bear hibernating. There's also a pool of water in there that is really meant to be kind of like a place where you can pay your respects to the Moon Knight by flipping a silver coin into the pool of water. There are a bunch of silvery coins on the bottom of that pool of water as well, so the players might be able to get their hands on some treasure. But if they do decide to pay their respects to the knight by flipping one of these silver coins inside of the well, they're going to hear some stone grinding sounds coming from Area 3. This is related to a riddle in Area 3 that basically wants you to throw some silver coins into the pool in Area 2, but we are going to come to that. From Area 2, they are going to be able to head either east or south. If they're heading east, they're coming up towards a wooden, partially rotten door that is kind of easy to just kick in and get through. But if they're kicking the door in, this is going to make a lot of noise, and this is going to be a problem because in Area 3 there are a bunch of sky pirates currently feasting and having a blast, having conquered some parts of these dungeons. So they're going to hear this door getting kicked down and will be able to react. So a more careful approach, using sieve tools and trying to pick the lock of this door, is going to result in a better advantage for the players. Because they're going to come out in Area 7, and Area 7 is really connected to Area 3. And it's kind of like an open gallery that is 10 to 15 feet above the rest of the room, so it's a high vantage point that the players can use to engage the partying sky pirates in some combat. Or they can just use that to stay hidden and out of view. There are some murals on the wall here that depict some of the deeds that the Moon Knight did for the people. There's also the Codex of the Moon Knight written there. And this might seem just like a bit of lore to the players, but players who take note here will get rewarded in Area 4, where this Codex will come up again. The players can now decide to engage with the sky pirates below them, or they can head north to Area 10. Area 10 is this really big circular room with a bunch of statues, and in the middle there is a moon face that is kind of engraved into the middle of the room, into the floor. Each of the statues depicts different acts that the players can perform in the dungeon, like picking a lock, braving a chasm, or spending coins towards another creature. Whenever a player who did one of these deeds approaches one of these statues, their eyes are going to flare up in a silvery light, and the players are going to get experience points. So they're really going to want to try to get all of these statues to light up. If they manage to do that, then in the middle, the moon face will suddenly start shifting to the side, grinding on the stone, revealing a large treasure of silver and some winged boots that are able to let the wearer fly for a limited amount of time once a day. Really cool treasure here if they manage to solve this very much optional riddle. There is another way going down from Area 2 that we haven't discussed yet. The players can also go south, and there is a waterfall, the same waterfall that is actually also heading out onto the mountain path in Area 8, that is now blocking the way once again, but inside of the dungeon. There's only a very slim and slippery path that the players can take, so if they're careful, they can easily move through here. But of course, this is not going to be a good way if they're running away or towards something. For example, if they're fleeing from the cave bear, they might slip and fall into the water here, getting flushed out of the dungeon and falling to their doom into the abyss below. There are a bunch of ways they can engage with these sky pirates. They can try to use the high vantage point in Area 7 to just snipe them down, since it's kind of hard for these sky pirates to get through Area 7. And another way would be just to try to engage them in a social way, because these sky pirates actually do have an interest. They want to get rid of the cave bear, so if you assist them in that, they might be more willing to help you navigate through the dungeon and won't pose that much of a threat anymore. There's also a statue in this room 3, and this statue is really a riddle. It has a little text written on it saying only those who give may take. This is of course a reference to room 2, to the pool where you're meant to flip a silver coin into. If the players have already done that, then the statue in area 3 will have already slid to the side, revealing a secret entrance into the tomb in area 4. The tomb is the last really relevant area of the dungeon. This is where the Moon Knight has been buried. So there are some pedestals where the characters can find some silvery treasure, and there is a chance that they might find some of their own gear there. Since there is a random encounter with the spirit of the Moon Knight that can steal some of their gear, and if that happened, then they're going to find their stolen gear right here. In addition to that, there's of course the grave itself. The Moon Knight's skeleton is in the middle of this room, inside of a sarcophagus, and if the players engage with the skeleton, they will realize that it is wielding a silvery sword, the Moonblade, which is a very cool +1 sword that lights up when there are spirits nearby. So of course it's going to light up, since the spirit of the Moon Knight is going to come into that room. If the players try to take away this Moonblade from the skeleton, it's going to animate and ask them for the codex. Now, if you remember, the codex is written on the walls of Area 7, but there is a chance they haven't encountered Area 7 yet, or have simply forgotten or not checked. If that is the case, they're going to have to fight the spirit of the Moon Knight in his tomb. If they have the codex though, they're going to get rewarded big time. The one who recites the codex is not only going to get the sword without a fight, but is also going to be knighted and become a Moon Knight. So the one who recites the codex is going to get a bunch of extra experience points, a cool new title, and in addition to that, an alternative carousing table that enables them to do charity work. So it's really meant to be like a tongue-in-cheek way of showcasing how this character gets converted to the good side of the charitable Moon Knight. Either way, there is another way to get into the tomb of the Moon Knight, since there's no guarantee that the characters are actually going to figure out the riddle with the statue. The other way to get to here is through Area 9. Area 9 is this very narrow tunnel that the Sky Pirates have actually dug from their camp in Area 5. Since they probably didn't want to deal with the cave bear in Area 2, they just dug this mine shaft towards Area 3 that is really just secured by a bunch of fickle wooden beams. So if the characters decide to fight in there, they might trip over these wooden beams, causing the tunnel to collapse. There is a chasm that the tunnel also leads into, Area 11. This is where the fire moths reside. The fire moths are these oily, big old moths that are really attracted to torchlight. So if they see a torch, they're just going to head straight towards it and explode since they're drenched in oil. Not really good game plan for a creature, but this is what they do. So this is going to be a very interesting encounter where the players can really use torchlight to lead these creatures away, or maybe don't even use any torchlight since this attracts them, so maybe they have to go through this chasm in the dark, which is going to be a little bit easier since this chasm actually is just a chasm that leads to the outside, so they can actually see the sky from here. If they somehow circumvent this chasm, maybe using some climbing gear or rope, they're going to get through area 11, which is really just a little plateau and tunnel towards a silvery metal door that blocks the way to area 4. Since this is the alternative route if the players did not figure out the riddle, this door is actually pretty nasty. It has a very difficult lock, and the lock is also trapped. There are 4 teeth inside this lock, and most of them are silver, but the second teeth is actually golden, and if it gets pressed down, then it's going to release a moon gas, and characters nearby, if they do not succeed on a con save, they're going to get turned into moon dust and die instantly. So this is a very dangerous trap. As a small caveat, players who are going to get turned into this moon dust are going to get swept away by the winds and towards the sky, where the players are able to describe another star sign getting created on the spot. So there's a little caveat where the players don't have to feel too bad about losing a character, because at least they got to do a little bit of collaborative world building. But either way, if the players do manage to get through this door, they're also going to get inside of that tomb. After they have uncovered this, they probably want to head out, so they're either going to go the way that they came from, or they're going to take an alternative route. For example, if they started in area 1, they might want to head out through area 9, and this is going to get them the opportunity to kind of get through the encampment of the Sky Pirates from behind, surprising them, and maybe even giving the players a little bit of an advantage in this fight here. So, these are all of the rooms of the Tomb of the Moon Knight. I hope this video could help you a little bit to understand the layout of this dungeon and to run it better for your players. I hope you guys are going to have a blast to play this. If you want to buy this, you can just head down to the link in the description and grab one on my website www.professor-grim.com. And if you played this, please let me know in the comments below how it went, what happened, and what kind of crazy shenanigans your players were up to. Thank you all for listening, and I'm going to see you in the next one.